It is Talking Reds, it is Neil Atkinson, it is Craig Hannan. There's t-shirts, that one, which I like a lot, this one, which I like a lot. There's mugs as well. I'm drinking out of one of them. I mean, it's literally a live mug. It's being used as a mug for purpose.
Which is what it's for.
There as well. Just so that they're out the way now, so we can do this with them, which I always enjoy. I'm not going to throw the mug down because I'm not that sort of risky. To be honest with you, it'd be terrible to see it crashing off Michael's head behind us, needing a crash helmet just to produce Talking Reds. It is Neil Atkinson, it is Craig Hannan. We are full of beans. The manager's done a video about what happened to Paris. Do check that out on the official site. In a minute or two, I'm going to go and be speaking to Clifford Stott and to Pete Weatherby about all of that. We'll put that out this afternoon as well. That's that parked, although I do think it did actually feed into a little bit of feel good before the Everton match. The Everton match, though, was all feel good. They look like Liverpool again. I want to talk about Bacchecic, and the reason why I want to talk about him isn't because he's boss.
I'm only here for him.
Oh yeah, that's you now.
Yeah, just so we just make that clear from the beginning.
It's now, as far as you're concerned, we should, which would be difficult, by the way. It's hard to say, but rename the whole football club after him.
Yes, maybe, possibly. Really difficult to spell though.
Yeah.
So might need like constant reminders that it's the J before the C. I've had to I need to make like a little rhyme for myself so I remember each time because I keep tweeting it wrong.
Yeah.
Like a dickhead. I love him.
Or just call us BFC.
Yes, forever.
Yeah.
I love everything about him. I loved his performance the other night. Like even against Wolves when I was watching him, it's one of those things whenever things were so bad against Wolves that I decided I was just going to watch him and see how he got on and really sort of concentrate. And he, I thought he just looks so classy. He looks as if he's the sort of footballer that can, find his way out of crowds, still with the ball. He can win it. He's dynamic. I think he looked. He did a very Gini Wijnaldum role the other night, which I was really, really into. I think it was 12 kilometres or something, the most of any player on the pitch. So he got himself about, but when he had the ball, he's special. I think centre midfield's probably the most difficult position to come into as a young player and be thrown right into. It's very rare that actually happens, especially at Liverpool. Usually
that or centre-half's graft as well.
Yeah, I just think that you've got everything around you and you can be, And I feel like he's a footballer just is not fazed by any of that. He just looks so calm, collected, and I loved him in the interview after the game.
You said, I'm going to talk about his interview after the game in a minute. You said Gini Wijnaldum there, it was interesting. I noticed there was a couple of tweets last night where people were beginning to make that sort of, that comparison. Sam Maguire did it as well. Doing review stuff yesterday, looking at the way in which the data held itself. I was thinking exactly the same thing. Up? Really backed it up.
Okay, yeah.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. That it wasn't. He did not. Whilst he's got that lovely turn and a bit of the swagger and the low socks, remind you of Thiago. It's actually quite a Gini Wijnaldum performance, and the way the whole side sort of functioned in the context of that, I felt it was really, really like, oh yeah, that fella. Yeah. It looks a bit like that fella. And I remember what this looks like, and I thought, the idea you can give it to him in any situation, he'll look after it. Yeah. He won't necessarily progress it all that much, but a lot of hard running as well. It felt to me to be a very Wijnaldum performance.
There's a lot of getting it and giving it quickly, and allowing the fullbacks to get up and the fullbacks to be the sort of the ones that were making things happen, and that's what I really liked about him, and just how he was just all over the pitch in a really, really good way, still sticking close to Henderson and Fabinho, by the way. I just really like the midfield three and really love him in it, and I know it's probably been mentioned the idea that it's not, he's not a 6, but then I love the fact that he came from the 18s, and the 18s he was a centre back, so he's none of these things.
And he's 32, he'd be playing up front.
Yeah, and so the idea that Jurgen's looking at him and going, right, well, these are the attributes, or the people in the academy are looking at him and going, well, he's got all of these attributes, so we'll play him here, we'll start him here, we'll move him up the pitch. And I just love the fact that Salah's looking at him and saying he's been the best player that they've had since the World Cup, because it's absolutely true. And if we're in a period of people keep saying transition, and now that we beat Everton, I'm fully out of that. I'm like, this is not transition. We now need to. We've got games to win here, Neil. Like this week's massive.
We have got games to win.
It's cup finals in my eyes, but. If we're gonna end this season and say, well, it's not quite what we wanted, but we've scraped top 4 and we've gone, maybe won the Champions League, or we've gone far in it. You can look at someone like him and say, well, he's the future and the now.
When you want to talk to him about him being the future and the now, when we want to talk about what's on the horizon across the next couple of games, for me, I think the idea of footballers wanting to grab themselves as the future and the now really, really matters. They need to, there's another couple on top of that. One of them scores against Everton, and Another one actually, I think, scores against Everton as well, because the thing about Salah is that he wants to be the now at all. Like in Salah's head, he's got 5 more years of being the now because he's Mo Salah and that's what he's about. But with Gakpo as well, I felt as though it was such a funny thing. Like he literally looked like he ran faster after he scored, and that shouldn't be the case. Like you'd think pace is a constant, but it looked like he ran faster after he scored. It just looked, and I watched the game back last night. I wasn't able to before then, but one of the things that you got to see, I thought, like literally, in his celebration for the goal, it does feel like a weight just comes off him. Like he's almost like he's like moving his shoulders in this sort of God, that's that out the way thing, and just begin to feel like a weight's come off them.
Confidence is just it's so important in football. It can make or break a player, and I think for someone like Gakpo, who he's come from a football team where he's the main man, and he can walk into any room at PSV, and he's the big dog. You know what I mean? He's the one that everyone's looking to and going, well, I believe in him. He's our best player. He's our shining light. And then he goes to Liverpool, and suddenly he's got it all to prove again. He's looking at all these footballers that have achieved pretty much everything in the game or in club football, and that's quite a big thing. Also, he's very young, and people forget that these footballers are moving over with, he speaks decent English, but he's moving over. He's still in a flat, apparently. Like, he hasn't moved into a proper house yet. He's still got that, like, the life stuff behind him. But, to get a goal in the Merseyside derby's massive. And
he's still in a flat?
He's still in the flat, apparently. Yeah, when they moved, they're in. No, but
like, that's a nice flat.
He's in I reckon it's bare. I reckon it's got a good view, but there's not much in it. There's no pictures on the walls in those flats. It'll just be white walls and nothing.
Maybe you like a minimalist lifestyle. Why are you giving him clutter? Do you know what I mean? What's her name? Marie Kondo. I think people forget that, don't they? When you move to another city, like if you were to do that in your own job, you have a period of settling in. You have a period of getting to know the what's being asked of you. What pictures have you got on your walls?
I've got like prints. I haven't chosen them all.
Oh right, go on.
I haven't chosen any of them. I don't know why I said.
Are any of them art?
They are art. They're just not original art. I'm not paying for original.
No, I don't think you go to the auctioneer. Trust me. Yeah. I know how much you earn. I know you're not knocking around and going and getting a Vermeer. You don't need to worry about that, mate. I'm just asking, like, have you got printed reproductions or
buying
anything?
them online for 20 quid?
Yeah. Maybe Cody should get you involved with some interior decorating then off the back of all this.
I quite like that, to be honest. I quite like that. You film it.
Yeah, we could definitely. That'd be great content. You could take it down to Brasco.
I don't like the feng shui of this room, Cody. Let's brighten things up.
So within all of that, you said before about them being massive, and this is all that's in my head now. This is not a Newcastle side who are in great nick. They feel like they're in great nick from our point of view, and they feel like they're in great nick historically.
3 draws in a row in the league.
And lost to Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup. Got good results against Southampton, but looked a little bit edgy in a couple of phases of them. I just don't think they're in great nick. I think they have been this season, and I think on the whole they could still come fourth, and they could come fourth and win the League Cup, and it'd be the best season probably the best season they've had since they last won the FA Cup in the 50s. So let's be clear, but simultaneously they don't look to me, and I think they're going to try and make Saturday as big as possible. It's the Bobby Robson 90th birthday anniversary stuff as well, and they're going to be going all in on that, which is perfectly reasonable. But I do feel as though it's actually quite a decent time to play them, and that hasn't always been the case for us this season. I think this is quite a decent time to play them.
No, absolutely, particularly after the Monday game. Like I was saying going into the game on Monday that it was a pivotal moment in the season, and that, like, imagine we lose against Everton, like, you don't know what happens next. But if you win against Everton, then suddenly there's a story you can tell yourself about Newcastle, and that you beat them, you're fucking back in the, you're back in this with them, and suddenly they're starting to sort of think, well, Liverpool are finding a bit of form here, and it's getting a bit more difficult for them. It is going to be difficult. Look, the atmosphere in that ground it's one of my favourite. Not in terms of the steps you walk up and the view you get at the end of the steps, but in terms of the actual stadium, the way it's in the city, the way whenever there's a game on, you feel the atmosphere. It's going to be a massive atmosphere in that game, but it's a massive game for Liverpool.
For me, the thing I took from the derby, I was like, just get to 10 and don't concede, please. And I almost want to, I don't want to be overly ambitious, but against Newcastle, I'd quite like to get to 20 and not concede.
Yeah.
And I think that if I think that they put the big atmosphere in, it's 5:30, but if we can frustrate for 20 minutes, this is not currently a side that's breaking teams down. Yeah. It's a side that plays on the counter, it exists in that sort of space. We need to accept that, but we can play that to our advantage. And I feel as though big atmosphere, listen, we've been part of big atmospheres, we know how they work, but we also know there's the moment when you're part of a big atmosphere and you haven't got the goal. There's a moment when you're 20 minutes into your massive atmosphere and it's still not come.
Yeah.
And then you sort of begin to look at each other a little bit like, can't quite get in this, can we? And that's what Liverpool, I think, need to build a bit of against Newcastle. And we did that last season, and I know, we were a different side then in a number of ways, but last season, it's a big atmosphere. They're all up for it. They're all over it. They have a big first five. We then get the ball, look after it for 10 minutes. Kaiser scores 1-0, game over. I think we need a little element of that, if not necessarily just that.
In my head, I just see it as building blocks. So I saw the Everton game as, right, get one, and then now it's Newcastle, right, win that one. It's another building block. It's Europe. You've got the big game, big night, big atmosphere. We know what we're going to get from that in terms of the fans. It's just what they can give us on the pitch. But I think, in terms of this game, like I want to see the same intensity we saw against Everton. I thought that looked much more sort of familiar. I want to see. I've wanted to see familiarity all season. That's all I've wanted. Like even the goal against Everton, the goal was a goal that we've seen in the past. Yeah. Lots. The idea that Liverpool are more sort of dangerous from a corner, from their own corner in their own box, and then a counter attack. I want to see Liverpool with the intensity in the first 15-25 minutes to then wrestle a bit of control of the game, and then that quietens the atmosphere, and then suddenly they go, right, this isn't the Liverpool that we've been watching for the past 2 and 3 months that can be bullied, can be beaten, and this Liverpool with a bit of fight in them, and within that game, almost like using the building blocks analogy again within the game, just getting through the first 5, 10, 15, 20, and then from there Liverpool hopefully build on it.
The next phase of this, obviously, is we've all got one eye on Madrid, and we've been unlucky here with the way the fixtures have gone. Newcastle away, followed by Madrid at home, Saturday night to Tuesday evening. It is a bit of an ask, but the players have been having a lot of week-long breaks recently as well. But also, I just feel, again, if the building blocks thing happens, which we hope it does, like I want them to be desperate to get on the pitch against Newcastle, and then after when the final whistle goes against Newcastle, I want them to be desperate to get on the pitch against Real Madrid. And I think that if that's they've been hating the football for so long, it's felt like from the outside looking in, I want them to be loving the football to the extent that the whistle goes in one game and straight away they're almost ravenous about, all right, when do we get to play again?
I think it works in our favour. Real Madrid play at 8 p.m. on Saturday night, by the way.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
So they've got to travel over.
They've got to travel and so on. So it's it's an equal playing field, and that queuing. Yeah, fucking hell, you don't want the queues. I hope they're not flying into Manchester, by the way.
Well, I hope they are flying into Manchester.
I
hope they're
for our sake.
Yeah. It's much worse than fireworks outside the hotel the night before. What we're going to do is we're going to put you through a gate of hell, and then from there.
And when you think you're there, you're on the runway for about half an hour, and when you think you're there, you've got passport control. So all the best, lads. What were we talking about again? What was the question?
About the idea that it is but I think it could work for us. But they've got to keep proving themselves, and then they'll feel it.
They've got to get the result, and we're talking about confidence there. Like confidence, building it's much harder than sort of, it's very easy just for that to be sort of brittle and fragile. And that we've seen Liverpool at times this season where they concede early and it just all falls apart. And that's what we don't want. We absolutely do not want to see that, because that's when I would start to worry. But if Liverpool, if it's 0-0 at half time and Liverpool go into the second half going, well, we're not 1-0 down yet, and we've had a few chances and we can get at this team and we've quietened the atmosphere, and then there's real opportunity. And then I think the Real Madrid game being 2 days later is what we want. I think they've had enough rest, Neil. They've had enough rest, and it hasn't worked.
No.
They've had 7
Make them play every day.
7 days, then 8 or 9 for the Everton the Everton game. Now we want these games after game. This is the perfect time to sort of build a bit of momentum. You only build momentum by playing game.
Next thing then becomes the lads who are coming back, and this is part of why it just felt to me like Monday was full of things to look forward to. I don't think for a second, for instance, I would be genuinely surprised if Firmino and Jota are featuring from the start against Madrid. But the fact that they both get on against Everton just makes you go, oh, that's better. Yeah. The fact that Verge is on the bench, oh, that's better. Yes, Thiago was a blow, and it will remain a blow when the games do come thick and fast. You want quality players to be at your disposal to make changes here and there. But it just felt to me like, oh, that's better. Let's have some more of this, please. Even having the options off the bench, we obviously didn't need them this time to come on and save us as such, but at different times over the past month, you've been looking at the bench when you've been 1-2-0 down, sometimes 3, and gone, I don't know who. I don't want any of them. How do we choose? How do we get the players off the pitch and not bring any of them on? But there should be none of that. Look, the Thiago injury, like an annoying one. It comes at a time when you would have liked all these players come back, and you've got Thiago as well in there. But I'm really, really excited about Diogo Jota. I think we've missed him so much. I mean, Firmino's like in the top 10 goal scorers in the Premier League, by the way. Yeah, still. which is mad. What he's offered earlier in the season, it'll be great to have him. And just in terms of two players who know exactly what they're doing, and
we're talking about Gakpo and how well he's done and against Everton, and you know how it's taken him a little bit of time, and it's taken a little bit of time for us to work him out and for his players to work him out and for us to sort of understand like what's his best position, what's he going to offer for Liverpool going forward. But then you've got two players there who, you know, you can bring Gakpo out and you can put Firmino on, Jota on in that central position, Jota on the left if you want, and you know exactly what you're going to get from them.
Summing it all up, I'm beginning to feel like something is re-emerging, you know, and it is only one game, and I've been really reluctant to use turn the corner language all the way through, because I feel as though this corner's been a really big corner.
Yeah.
But it does feel as though they have been playing for time all the way through. I've just been saying, I think the managers are playing for time, and that sounds ridiculous because you know when the games are, but I felt like he's been thinking it's just going to take, you've got to work through these periods. Like, he's such a one for the long term. He's such a one for imagining sort of where we'll be. I think he genuinely does. Like, I think he understands, I think, at times when the tide's going against you, and you've just got to sort of ride that bit out. For the first time coming out, and it wasn't just that it was Everton, they're 18th. Let's be clear about this. We got a 2-0 home win against a team that's 18th. Nothing sorted, but it does all begin to feel. I feel a bit like Gakpo after the celebration of the goal. I feel a bit like you've seen a weight come off of, you could just begin to see what it's all meant to be, and that to me means that, you know, a positive result, which isn't getting beat, it's just solely not losing at Newcastle. Anything that isn't losing at Newcastle, I feel as though we really will be able to feel like, okay, right, February, March, April, May, let's go Reds.
Yeah, because we've seen, there's been false dawns this season already. You know, there's been, you know, beating Bournemouth earlier in the season in the way that we did, and we go, right, here we go again.
The 2-1 against Newcastle.
The 2-1 against Newcastle, but even that, it was like last minute, but you thought, no, that's something that can lift this. Beating City, you know, we've had so many of these. I think it's the end of the week that we can look at it and go, that was the pivotal week in the moment. Like, this is the start of it again. Like, this is, you know, I talk about having a story to tell. Like, I think that's massive for Jurgen Klopp, and if we come out of this time next week, and you know, what day is today? The
Wednesday.
Derby has me out, so it will be this time next week. You know, if you're looking at it and you've got a good result against Newcastle, you've got a good result against Real Madrid, then you can start to believe, and you can sort of have something to believe in this season, because it's been a season where we haven't really had that.
Okay, excellent stuff indeed. There's a clip coming up from the post-match show that we did at the Glenbook after the game against Everton. Monday, Saturday, Tuesday, Talking Reds back next Wednesday. It's Liverpool Football Club. Well, it was Liverpool Football Club. It's now the BFC. Have a whiz popping Wednesday.
I think most importantly though as well is, you look at Gakpo tonight and I thought he was excellent.
After his goal he was like, he was quicker, he was stronger.
He was in control of Everton, wasn't he?
Even before the goal, he's playing in a position where you can, like I've watched him so far for Liverpool and thought, I'm not sure I see what we see. I don't see necessarily a Liverpool player. I'm not sure, you know, when you can feed into all this sort of internet gossip and rumour mongering about, you know, Pep Linders just signing who he wants. Like, he's got access to the fucking cash cards, and he's gone, lads, what's the pin? And they've gone, it's 8-7 fucking 6-4, and he's gone, all right, lads, I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going to the shop.
What's the number? Gonna get loads of dust, lads.
And he turns up with Gakpo and a fucking loaf of bread. But I've been watching him thinking, I'm not sure I see what he's going to bring to a Liverpool team long term. But then today I thought he was fucking excellent.
Playing in his correct position. Yeah. And there was an interview where he was saying, I think I'm all right off the left, you know, which shows how fragile his confidence was. But now tonight you've looked at him, kind of at the top of the midfield and at the bottom of the attack. Big strong lads, big game lads.
Able to turn his man, get away from him.
That. And so, nowhere near Bobby Firmino, but in the same position.
Yeah.
But in a different way of playing it.
But also, maybe giving you a similar end product in terms of having two fast fellas either side of him running away from you.
Completely that. Yeah. So a different way of doing the same position. Yeah, we're getting there.